Thank you. I wasn't being clear.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
Is that good? Okay.
Yeah. We can't talk.
Okay. Our mission as the
Somebody should tell Randy that she's muted.
And that's my issue. That really resonates with me. And so our goal really is to help people find the great work that's already being done across the community, and hopefully join in if it's something that resonates with you. Instead of reinventing the wheel, we want to take advantage of all this great stuff. So today we have Cathy Snyder from Rolling Harvest, Executive Director, and I'll have her introduce her bio, but just very excited. She basically, and we're going to play a little video also of why she started Rolling Harvest, doing some great work connecting the food insecure in our local area. There are people who are food insecure right here in Bucks County and across the river with the food that's already here that was going to waste in a lot of cases. So really excited to hear about what they're doing and how they're helping our neighbors. And first, we're going to hear from Rabbi Anna to introduce our event today and Sukkot, and talk a little bit about this year that's a Shmita year, and we're connecting the concept of Shmita with each of our events this year at Tikkun Olam as well. So excited. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dara. So Dara is our fearless head of our Tikkun Olam committee at Kolomet. Audio sounds interesting from this. It's very vantage point, right? It's hairy, as Jeff Arden would say. I've learned something about audio visual from High Holidays, so I'm going to try ignoring that. So I'm Rabbi Anna, and this is an incredible community. And Sukkot, the Jewish holiday of Sukkot, we're in a sukkah. So Sukkot is sukkah plural, and so you can just imagine all these different Jewish communities and families having each their own sukkah, and us looking around and seeing everybody eating and spending time, inviting in guests in their particular Sukkot, and decorating their sukkah in a way that is them, that feels like home for them. And the sukkah is supposed to be during this 8-day holiday, 7-day for some people, those who live in the land of Israel, like a home away from home. It reminds us of our time as nomads wandering in the desert, searching for home, land of Israel. And in a very visceral way, it connects us to our nomadic, primal kind of roots. We are bidden to be in this kind of structure where we can feel all the elements. We're bidden to be in the structure where it can be knocked down in a strong wind. And we are told after the Jewish high holidays, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the head of our year and the Day of Atonement, that this is really the source of our strength, especially as we go into the winter, right? We are to share bounty. If we are feeling vulnerable or afraid of what winter may bring, our strength lies not in strong walls, but in our community, our friends. And in knowing that it's not just us that has this sukkah all alone. There's a whole plethora of sukkot, and each and everybody's sukkah, what is traditional to do is to welcome people. So the mitzvah, commandment of hospitality, is central to Sukkot. So what we're doing, gathering here, being in a sukkah, that is what this holiday is all about. We're not being, we're not stepping out of line. This is totally in line with the themes of this holiday and the values of this holiday. And, we don't know what the future will bring. We don't know what the winter will bring. We don't know what life will be like on this planet. But Sukkot bids us to be with one another, to share our bread, and to be present to God's presence here and now. in nature in this sukkah. And the sukkah is also symbolic of a chuppah. And a chuppah is the structure, a canopy under which people get married. And after the headiness of the high holidays and all of our praying and everything like that, the sukkah is a place of love and connection and just being and taking a breath and feeling God's presence here with us now, not worrying about the mistakes of the past or what's to come, but really just being here now and appreciating the beauty. Because there is so much beauty in this day, is quite evident. But even when it's raining, even when it's storming, there's incredible beauty to be had if we would but be in the sukkah to be able to appreciate it. So, some Jews are very, very strict about eating and living in the sukkah, and even when it's raining and storming, they will be in the sukkah, and they will be having their meals in the sukkah, or even just a part of their meals in the sukkah. I have a friend, Hani, who she's very, very strict, and she says that her most memorable Jewish memories are when it's been raining in the sukkah and we've had plops of rain in her soup. So I think it's always been a wonderful image for me during Sukkot. As Dara mentioned, we're in a Shmita year. So those of you who are here, hello, for High Holidays, you heard all about Shmita from me. And Shmita is something that Dara actually challenged me to learn more about, because Dara got excited about learning about Shmita and wanted to make it more of a theme for us this year, because as Dara mentioned, it is a Shmita year. Shmita means sabbatical. Hi Tzvi, hi Jean-Luc. Shmita means sabbatical, and it happens, as you would imagine, every 7 years. So, and then in the Torah, there's 7 times 7 years, that's 49, and the 50th year is the Jubilee year. That's where we get the word Jubilee. And that's called Yovel. So there's a rhythm of every Sept in the week, the days of the week. We take a Shabbat, Sabbath, for rest and renewal. And Shmita tells us every year the earth gets a whole year of rest and renewal. Shmita doesn't have the same root as Shabbat. It starts with sh. But it's a time for release. Releasing the land of working it and tilling it and just letting it be au naturel. And also releasing it of your ownership. So anybody can come and take its produce, whatever it gives naturally. So Shmita is a time of sharing. Shmita is a time of evening out. If you are somebody who owns a lot of land and you're very wealthy, you let go of your wealth and your ownership even to share the fruits of the bounty of your land. You recognize every Shmita that it is not you, in fact, that owns land, but rather God owns land, right? And it takes a lot of faith to really observe Shmita. And in fact, Shmita is not observed fully anymore since the destruction of the Second Temple. And Shmita also is a mitzvah, a commandment, bidden for people only living in the land of Israel. So for what it's worth, we're not here to say we're going to observe Shmita in its traditional biblical form, but rather what can we learn from the ideas of Shmita? I think certainly our grip on the land, our using of the land, we can let go, we can relax, and we can learn ways to do that. Shmita is not just about the land, like I said, it's about ownership. And people who were slaves can be released every 7 years. So they have a chance to be free, to be whole. Yes, there was a system of slavery in the Torah, but it wasn't forever slavery. And it's a reminder that people are not owned by people, right? Everyone has inherent human dignity and ownership of themselves and has free agency. So Shmita is also a time to figure out how we can be released from debt, how we can be released from the enslavements, modern enslavements, it's a very challenging thing to try and figure out how to observe in modern times, but I think wholly worthwhile. And I'm really, really excited that Dara brought this to me, because I can't figure out how to do this kind of, Shmita stuff alone. We have to think about it as a community, and we have to take steps together one at a time to really unfold ourselves into Shmita. I mean, that's why it's a whole year. People get a sabbatical in some vocations like mine, and I have to say, when I took a sabbatical last year, it wasn't easy to figure out, what do I do with myself now that I have nothing to do? But slowly I found a new rhythm. And so I have faith that together we can find a new rhythm as a community, and we can really own, sorry for the expression, own Shmita in our way. So it's exciting to kick off our Shmita year with you, and we're delighted to hear what you have to share with us and how you can teach us.
Thanks, Rabbi Anna. I do have a link to your video, Cathy, lined up.
Thank you so much.
And I do want to say, if you want to know more about Shmita, I have that sermon, and it's on my blog. So if you ever wanted to know about Shmita, it's on our website.
People should feel free to eat.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, if you have your
Oh,
drinks
we were
and
gonna
your
maybe do
snacks.
lessons.
I was going to do a blessing. I'm so sorry. Okay. None of us owns the mic. Okay, so I invite each of you to say your blessings on your food, whatever you're eating or snacking on. But we can all say a blessing for sitting in the sukkah. It is a mitzvah just to sit in the sukkah. So you can just repeat after me in the Hebrew. It's basically, the traditional blessing formula that all Jews start every blessing with. And then the end, that's different, is leshev basukkah. So for sitting in the sukkah. So I'll translate it after we say it together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu leishev basukkah. So blessed are you, eternal Lord God, the Lord of the universe, who has given us all these amazing commandments to find divine ways of being holy in this world, and by sitting in the sukkah. Very nice.
Beautiful, thank you. And did you hear that breeze just rustle through all of this beautiful
Yeah, it's like
decorations?
God had a response there.
What? It was a response. It's a gorgeous night. I want to thank Dara and the Tikkun Olam committee and Rabbi Anna and everyone for inviting me to be part of your special Sukkah night. Those of you who are at home, I hope you can hear me. And
They said they can.
I hope if you have a chance that you can go to landharvest.org and see a little bit more about what we do. And what I'm looking forward to most after I say a few words is to take your questions. I want to make this thought-provoking. I want to give you information you may not know. I want to inspire you. I want to piss you off a little bit too. And this is social justice. This is a social justice organization that I run with Rolling Harvest Food Rescue. We have a mandate in Judaism. If you see something wrong, you cannot turn a blind eye. You must act. That is Tikkun Olam. That is our mandate. And as we spoke briefly in Dara's introduction, another important mandate is Baal TaSchit, which means we are commanded to not waste. We may not waste. So with that as a background, we're going to keep our fingers crossed and hope that our 3-minute video brings a lot of questions that we can talk about. Thanks. I was volunteering. I looked around and I said, why are we giving away this?
Let me mute. Sorry, it's me. Okay. So you can't. I'll unmute, see what happens.
But this is, my computer's muted, or should it not be?
It should be fine. Let's see. Oh yeah, if the TV's muted, we won't hear it. Yeah,
It's nice and big.
it is nice and big. We can see it.
I do want to make this work though, because
It's a wonderful.
You just turn your microphone off.
I think it should go. Yeah, it should be fine.
Organizations I've worked with. And it happened to be not far away from here. It was an organization in the Warminster area.
Wow.
And it had a very well-entrenched board, let's say, is a kindness.
Okay.
And they really felt that if they gave up something that wasn't completely packaged or prepackaged, hermetically sealed, that someone could get sick and they could be in trouble.
Okay.
It's as misguided as it could be, and I told them that. I gave them all kinds of suggestions and literature to read and all the protections that Good Samaritan laws put into place.
Just something that may not be obvious.
So maybe, Kathy, you could,
Should be good. Nope. The TV has to be off. Okay.
Well, they couldn't hear, what?
They couldn't hear the video.
That's because when you went to screen share, did you check the sound as a check mark? You gotta put it to share the sound. You didn't do that, that's why they're not.
Oh, no, I don't, that's what I was looking for, but then everyone started playing with wires.
Remember your question, too.
Yeah. Okay, so
So-
now though, let's try and just
Yeah.
talk.
Okay.
See if they,
Do I need to talk into the microphone?
No, I don't think
have
you
a loud
do.
voice.
No, I'm
And I like to use
happy.
my hands when I talk. Let's see if this is
You
okay.
can
you
hear?
can hear?
You're
You can
okay?
hear, Beth?
You guys hear me back there?
Let's see.
So Randy typed in the questions that were asked, but they couldn't hear your answers.
So just repeat the questions if that's okay. I can repeat them if you need them.
I'm going to talk for a few minutes about what we do, and I'll give you,
They say they can hear okay now.
yes, I'm going to give you the overview you'll have for, when you do go onto our website and watch the couple of short videos. It's about 3 minutes long, but I think it just says so much more than it would take me so many words to convey to you what it's like to be out there in the fields. And first and foremost, this is Shmita year. This is Sukkot.
Right?
We're in the Sukkot like all the other Jews in the world. And this is a time for us to really be focusing on what for Rolling Harvest is our world every single day. And I can really forget it's not your world, and it's not your world. It's not your world, as much as even you have a social justice committee. So if I can just peel away some of the layers of what we see every day and kind of just walk by and don't even think about, that's Shmita. That's a Chag Sameach, that's a mitzvah that I can do. And I think that you have an advantage through the temple here, the work that you do for social justice, the work that you do addressing food insecurity and food waste. You apparently, Dara was telling me that every month you help out with the Interfaith Food Alliance in Morrisville.
yes.
So you're aware of a number of things. You're aware that there are people, what, is that 3 miles away, 4 miles closer? So you're aware that we're here in Bucks County. We are the third most prosperous county in all of Pennsylvania, right? We are a wedding destination. Rolling Harvest Food Rescue got its start in New Hope, Pennsylvania. I mean, people come from all over the country to get married and enjoy the beautiful river towns, the scenery, the antiques, the restaurants. But the undercurrent of that, as I was saying, I started at a food pantry, was right there in the heart of the New Hope, Lambertville area, where there's an entire population that needs to get help and needs to be brave enough to be vulnerable enough to ask for help, to feed their families. One of the most basic needs in not only the third richest county in Pennsylvania, but the richest country in the world. So when you want to talk about Tikkun Olam, you don't have to go more than a mile outside of your own backyard. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. And there's not just one pantry that you work with. There's 32 food pantries in Bucks County, okay? There's 80 food pantries between the organizations we work with in Trenton. There's 430 food pantries, the organizations we work with Phil Abundance in Philadelphia. So the truth is, no matter what zip code you're living in, you are living in an area where hunger exists, food insecurity exists, and to really make it even more basic, Food insecurity means you don't know where your next meal is coming from. You don't know if there's going to be a next meal. And then to make things somehow manageable for you and your family in beautiful, bucolic wedding destination, New Hope and Bucks County, you are forced to make ends meet with the cheapest, most inexpensive food you can find just to fill hungry bellies. So if all of this doesn't deeply, deeply upset you and make you angry enough to want to do something to make a difference, this is an opportunity for people at home, for you here, to really start thinking, what is it that we're doing here if our most basic needs are not being met right in our own neighborhood? There's a lot of people who really don't want to believe it. And they'll say things to me like, oh, I'm sure you've experienced this. You'll see people drive up to the Morrisville food pantry in nice cars or a nice watch or, state-of-the-art cell phone. And they'll say people are scamming the system. And the truth of the matter is nobody knows what happens behind anyone's closed doors. Isn't that right, Rabbi? Mm-hmm. We all have a face that's very public. We have a face that's very private. None of your friends, none of your neighbors, none of your teachers, none of your bus drivers is going to say, I'm hungry and I'm struggling. And I'm feeding my family junk that is making them unhealthy. So here's where we sit in this sukkah. We're celebrating the harvest. See, I even put harvest colors on. Oh. Isn't that lovely? Doesn't it just brighten you up? This beautiful night. But the truth of the matter is there's so much that we can do. And when we do this work of saying, okay, I do accept that there is a tremendous inequity going on right within my own community, right among people I know. And it's Shmita year. We're supposed to take a break from normal practice. It's Sukkah. We're supposed to dig deep into our consciousness. We've just come off of 10 days of tremendous reflection as Jews with our 10 days of awe. And as much as I'm a very lackadaisical Jew, I take this very seriously. Every single day we get up, we have a chance to say, what's wrong? How can I make it better? Any one of us can do this. You all are doing your part. You showed up tonight to be part of the community and lift each other up. Okay, but the truth is, there is hunger. There is food waste. There is an inequity that has been exposed by a pandemic, that the true face of hunger is just now being seen in much more of a glaring light and making headlines across the country. Again, the work that we do usually goes under the radar, rolling harvest food rescue, getting surplus food from farmers, giving it to food pantries and people who don't have access to healthy food. But what happened during the pandemic is we saw this tremendous inequity. We saw the true face of hunger. We saw people who were comfortably making it okay, lining up for hours to get food. Rolling Harvest became one of those organizations. We set up massive emergency distributions all throughout Bucks County, all throughout Trenton. We would have 1,200 families show up at Pure Arena just to get a box of food to try to make ends meet. So I am very grateful that there's the silver lining of this horror, the silver lining of what we are all going through and so much loss and so much sadness, is that there is more of an awareness. It's been elevated. We understand now that the people who are in need are no different from us, because we are those people. We could be those people. Maybe we've just come out of it ourselves. Maybe anybody who's lost a job recently or struggling to make ends meet, because you still got to pay the rent, you still got to pay for keeping the lights on, you still got to pay for your medicines. You got to pay for that new laptop because your kids are struggling studying remotely. Everything affects the money that is available for us to live our lives with dignity and purpose. And when hunger becomes the main issue, nothing else works. So What do we do about it? I had that aha moment when I was at the food pantry in New Hope. And I had that aha moment when I would leave the food pantry and I would go to the New Hope Farmers Market. I don't know if any of you remember when it was in New Hope and then it was moved to New Hope High School. But that was my neighbor, that was my backyard. And I could go and fill up my car with the most beautiful local food. I would go home, and that was the meal that I could prepare for my family. We had the most delicious, most nutritious food. I just totally took that for granted. I had two things I just took for granted before I was able to peel away some of the layers that I'm trying to have you benefit from my experience. I'm trying to condense 10 years into about 18 minutes, so forgive me. But the point is, I had a car and I had some disposable income. I didn't think there was anything special about that. I thought that's the way everyone lived. But in fact, it doesn't. So the pandemic did also expose the total inequities of the people who have and the people that don't. And when you have a car, when you have a little extra money, your family is going to eat so much better. Rich people eat great. Poor people eat food that is unhealthy. It is lacking in nutrients. It is adding chemicals. It's adding processing. It's got salt, fat, sugar, all these things that trick our brain. This is what our food system has developed into now. And yeah, I'm pissed off. I am. Because the people who are consuming these are as much a victim as could be, because they don't understand what drives big food business, almost food addictions, the way it tricks your brain into thinking you're having a really pleasurable experience. But what you do is you're taking food in that's causing diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, cancer, and obesity. So now that I've laid out the problems, does it make sense to any of you that we are in an abundant farm area, really rich agricultural area, and they're all small family farms? It's not big agriculture. And farmers automatically have at least 20% that's in surplus when they grow. They're always going to plant at least 20% more than they need. So this might be, well, what's the connection? I don't get it. Well, if you've got a country where 1 in 5 kids is going to bed hungry, and then you've got a country where like 40% of everything that's grown on a farm stays left behind in the fields for a number of factors. I can get into those factors if you're fascinated. I'm a big policy wonk. I love it. But when you start to put those two realities together, how can we not do something? Because this is not, it's not going to cure hunger, but it's sure as heck going to make a difference to all the people that we are now being able to turn their food pantries into mini farmers markets with the same choices that you and I have. That's our take on social justice. That's our take on Baal TaSchit. Let's not let this go to waste. Well, so many are in need. And that's our take on creating community where simply through the efforts of people gathering together for a couple of hours, you go from no fresh food being available to, we just passed our 3.8 millionth pound. Just us, little old Rolling Harvest, little old Bucks County, Montgomery County, Hunterdon County, Mercer County. It makes a difference. And it's unconscionable not to do something. Now, not everybody has to feel passionate about what we're doing. Lord knows there's enough that's wrong in the world that needs a myriad of nonprofit and community benefit organizations. But doesn't it just make sense when we hear feedback from our 40 farm partners who are so incredibly grateful that the food they've worked so hard to grow is not going to go to waste? When we have our 15 organic farm partners who work twice as hard as anyone else with really intense organic process to make sure that they can feed their communities, to make sure that nothing's left in the fields. I knew what it meant when I brought that first bag of cucumbers back to the food pantry. I knew what it meant when I came next week with, a carload of
cabbage and broccoli. I knew what we were getting up to. Never, ever imagined how much this meant to the farmers who were having the heartbreak of seeing what their land could produce in a really regenerative, sustainable, organic agricultural way, and then to have food go to waste. So the point of what community can do, the point of when you see something that just shouldn't be, just know that you can make a difference. Please know that you can make a difference, and there's so many different ways to help. Someone had asked here earlier while we were having our technical difficulties, do we need volunteers? We always do. Because when a farmer texts us, and this is how an amazing modern day gleaning organization works. So Shmita, gleaning, all of this from the Bible. Well, we used to be an agrarian society, but we're not. So we have to play the role of connecting all of these resources that used to just be taken for granted. People would get on their donkeys, go to the farm during the Shmita year, go to the farm for gleaning when the farmers were all mandated to leave the corners of their fields for the poor to pick, and that would satisfy that imperative. Well, we don't have that kind of society anymore. So I'm grateful that more and more organizations are adopting gleaning. More and more people are adopting ways that can make sure nothing's going to go to waste, when so much has been put into growing that and producing that food just for it to be tossed or out. So yeah, we need volunteers because the farmer will text us, and sometimes we've had one day. I'll give you an example. Stony Lane Farm, not far away at all, near Pineville Tavern. You guys know Pineville Tavern? Stony Lane Farm just said, you know what, we're done. Just everything that we've grown, everything we planted, you know, we're just come and take it. So we moved heaven and earth and quite a few people. And it may not sound like a lot, but in just 5 weeks of making sure that we were there, 19,000 pounds got into the charitable food system here.
Wow.
To Morrisville, to Doylestown, to Kintnersville, to Ottsville, and many, many different models. This is what our take on social justice is. This is how we feel we are doing right by the planet. It's how we feel we're doing right by our neighbors in need. And I'm just going to leave it open for questions now. Thank you. I don't want to get preachy. I just, I mean, I appreciate that. I really do. I feel the love from you. I do. And there are so many statistics I could shock you with. There's horror stories I could shock you with. That's under this beautiful sky and this beautiful sukkah. I don't feel that, but please feel free to ask me questions, and I'd love to share. Yes.
Well, this is just to re-ask for the people that are watching. I asked you if all the pantries accepted it, or if any were a problem, because it's, you know, when you're giving out cans or whatever, it's easier sometimes. So yeah, that question.
No, that was a really good question, and you actually lead me to two things I'll try to answer really directly and really quickly. The question was, we're changing the model of what food pantries offer and going from canned goods and packaged goods and processed goods to fresh food. And in fact, food pantries were never designed for what we're doing. Food pantries were always designed to be a 3-day emergency supply of food, and then one and done. But that is not what works for the modern world, where it is just so expensive. You know, Bucks County has the highest rent in the whole state.
Yes.
You know, there's no public transportation.
Yes.
There's a lot of reasons that people are going to be in need. Way more than one time for a 3-day emergency supply of food. So there are families that are going to come back week after week. We know them. We know their children. We know the jobs they're doing. And for pantries to be able to accept what we deliver, a couple things have to be in place. You have to have an infrastructure that can accept fresh food, because this is turning the model on its head. We want people to walk in and go shopping as if they were being able to pick just the way we do, because we have a car and we've got money in the supermarket.
or a farmer's market. So some pantries might be reticent because they just don't have enough cold storage. Some pantries, many pantries, are going to be run, God bless them, by, a couple of women in their 70s who can't lift anything. So there's only one pantry in our entire 10-year history that turned us down for fear of getting sued because fresh vegetables implied someone could get sick. So, in fact, it's a great opportunity to just tell them how wrong they are, how misguided they are, and benignly uninformed, which I was happy to do, but it still got us nowhere. So put your efforts on the 99% of agencies that see what it means to the families they're providing for, and see the stories they get about, oh my God, I'm off my diabetes medicine for the first time. Oh my God, I lost 30 pounds. I can't believe, oh my God, I got my kids to eat a tomato? Wow. So these are the stories we really focus on. Yes.
I don't have a question. I'd like to make a comment, because you're sitting in a sukkah with a bunch of wonderfully beautiful people that support the Interfaith Food Alliance. I'm a liaison from this congregation to that group, and I'll tell you it took a few years to have our population of up to 52 families accept produce. It was a very hard sell.
The families that you're providing for.
Very difficult sell.
Interesting. Tell me why.
Many people didn't know how to work with the fruit that we had, and they preferred really to have the quick can, or rice, or spaghetti, or peanut butter. It's come a long way. We've been together now for 5 years. This organization donates a lot of the food. I've gone to McCaffrey's. They, every 4 times a month, supply us with the most wonderful packaged foods that are already pre-cooked. We have Snipes Farms gives us veggies. I go to a place in Langhorne, Pennsylvania. I found a huge group of apartments that have gardens in the back of their homes, and I now go once a month and I pick up their fresh foods. It was an easy sell for them because they also, like the farmers, have about 20% of produce that they cannot use. On top of that, the individual stories are heartbreaking and yet so wonderful, because not only do we provide food, we know when the birthdays are, we know when the anniversaries are, we provide cake, gifts for many of the people who have their 15th birthday, for many of the Latinx families that are there. We do all of that, and we learn about the families, but the families themselves, they come around the same time. They become extremely supportive. They know of other people that are hurting. We give them extra food. I would say the average amount of food that a person takes away 4 times a month is 100 pounds each time. And we weigh them because that's part of how we get our funding, by reporting what we give away. And we just recently put together a 7-day or 10-day funding appeal, and we just made $20,000. It will go quickly because not only do we give food, not that we give it, there's a pantry for people to go in and pick their own, and choose their own. They get gift certificates to buy their own food. So we have a wonderful congregation here that support this very, very well.
That's beautiful. I want to thank you guys for everything you're doing. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Now, you raise a couple of really important questions. Why do people sometimes not want to accept fresh vegetables? There's a number of reasons. First of all, some people are not that educated in nutrition. And if their family happens to be overweight or nearing, childhood diabetes is becoming an epidemic in this country. There's childhood obesity. Sometimes nobody has taken the time to care enough to explain the cause and effect of what you put in your body and the food choices you make. But it's not just that. It's not enough to just explain it. You have to make sure then that they can access those healthier choices. And if there has not been access to those healthier choices, then, you know, you've got to make that happen as well, which you are doing. And you remind me when we started, maybe a couple of years into this, I'll never forget driving a truckload of beginning of the harvest season, and the end of the harvest season always starts and ends with greens. Now, glorious greens, I call them. Most people, you know, are familiar with them, delicious, you know, kale, spinach, collards, lettuces, you know, mustard greens. Most people in my privileged circle, we look forward to that. We know how to make it delicious. We even know why it's so good, like taking a little massive, you know, multivitamin. But here I was driving all, you know, early harvest greens to Doylestown Food Pantry. And I'm thinking like, yay me, right? Yay me. Well, don't you know, I went back there 4 days later for the next delivery. You know what I saw, right?
Yeah.
You saw the greens in the trash. And I was horrified. And I realized not only were we not part of the solution, we became part of the problem. I mean, imagine the work that those farmers had to go through to give us a van load of greens that I was so proud. Oh, you know, it's all rainbows and unicorns now, right? Problems are solved. So I did something I don't normally do. I shut up and I started listening. And I started asking questions. And not only did the recipients not know what those greens were, why they were good for them, or how in the world to prepare them or how to store them, the food pantry volunteers didn't know. So you better know, in the last 8 years, we have grown and exponentially increased our whole nutrition education outreach program, because there is not going to be a single thing ending up in the trash can on our watch at this point, not when we have such an easy fix to that. And it's made a huge difference in my mind. We know from anecdotes, we know from stories and things that people share, and the enthusiasm that we get when the families will come up and, you know, that's my God, I got my kid to eat zucchini and pasta, you know, so, yeah.
Well, would it be helpful to have sheets with little recipes, you know, at the pantries, you know, that the people could just grab, you know, an easy recipe, not anything complicated?
It
but
sure
an easy
would.
recipe.
That's why we put it all online, so we don't have to waste any trees.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't have access and they don't know how to do that.
The pantries have made books out of them.
Yeah.
So we've tried a lot of different ways. Before COVID hit, when it was much more choice model and much more interactive, we would have recipes in English and Spanish. We have veggie ID cards. Each pantry has a binder of things, but we send our teams out. We send our nutrition education team out. Every single food pantry we work with can get our team on site 4 times a year for free. And we're committed to this. We're really committed to this. And when COVID hit and we had to shut down the in-person food tastings, and the distributions unfortunately had to go not so much to a choice model, but pre-bagged for safety, then we pivoted to creating a lot of recipes online and videos and ways to share this with anyone. And you're right, not everybody does have access to it, but a lot of people do. And even those families that may have been lacking in internet access, you know, some help has come through the public school systems to provide them with the technology they need. So it's getting better.
Also, if they have a book there, they can take a picture of a page of it. So it's not,
Well, that's true. We do that a lot at our events too. Yeah, thank you for reminding us.
So you don't need the internet.
They can take a picture, and you know, it just hurts me to see paper go to install stuff.
Definitely.
It really hurts. Yeah.
Can you explain? Was that for you? Okay. Can you explain what you do when you go 4 times a year with your food team on site nutrition?
Well, we will work with the food pantry. For example, Doylestown Food Pantry, Marsville Presbyterian is someone we help out. Trying to think other pantries you might know because of your location here. You might know pantries in Fairless Hills or Ben Salem, these areas.
That's wonderful. Joyce,
Helicopter.
Your programs, yes.
We will find out what size group is, we will find out who are the normal clientele for that food pantry, because, you know, oh my gosh, especially in lower Bucks, you're gonna have so many diverse, really culturally interesting, different groups. You could have, you know, one pantry that is Eastern European and Russian, and another pantry that serves mostly Hispanics. So it's amazing, we can really find out who the audience is, what the food preferences are. And then based on what's in season and what we know we're going to be distributing to that food pantry, our nutrition ed team will make a couple of recipes, and then they'll do tastings and samplings. And families come up, it's really great, it's interactive, the kind of opportunities to talk about nutrition. And, you know, even as simple as ways to get kids to believe it or not, try kale and love it. Or the dreaded kohlrabi, you know, there are so many, we have so many converts. So it's a very interactive, really enjoyable time. And then they go back home with the main foods they need to create those recipes. Yeah.
You also provide social services for people come?
We do not. We stay in our lane.
Okay.
Just the way I have to stay in my lane. Honestly, I can run a nonprofit, I can't even grow a cherry tomato. It's really true. I think I killed an aloe plant last year because I didn't bring it in for the first frost. We have enough relationships and networks with all the social service providers, and we will always make recommendations. You know, if, for example, somebody is in need and isn't getting the help they need, we work very closely with Bucks County Opportunity Council.
Yes.
We work very closely with United Way in both Bucks County and Mercer County. Fisherman's Mark in Lambertville and New Hope is a full-service social service agency. And you've got Keystone Opportunity in Souderton in the north part. So we do know where to send people and where they can get the extra help they need, because hunger is not an isolated thing. We all know this. Your Tikkun Olam committee, of course you know. You know, it's just one of many problems that presents itself when families are just overwhelmed and people are just at their wits' end. Yeah.
What kind of interaction do you have, either proactively or have any government folks come to you guys to say, you know, tell us more? Because it, you know, I've been very upset to know.
Can you hear the question in the back?
Yes.
Okay.
You might want to repeat it though for
What
the
kind
people.
of interaction do you have with government officials, either proactively or you're going to them to say, you know, we've increased by 1,000-fold, the need is apparently increased, and have any government officials come to you, Bucks County Opportunity Council, to Rolling Horse, to whomever, to say, there's, you know, what you need, because it feels so incredibly unfair that it's left to all of us, to you, to fill in the need, you know, the gaps.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. It's unfair, but at the same time, when I take a step back, to me, maybe that is the mark of a well-run society, where government does what it can and then the private sector fills in all the gaps. So I'm not sure where I stand on that yet, honestly. But to answer your question about government, all of them.
Yeah.
They've all come to us and we've spoken. We are on different task forces. We're on different committees. We are in a number of collaborations. Somebody had said before I sat down that so many people don't know the cooperation and collaboration that goes on among social justice and community benefit organizations. Mm-hmm. But it is true. And if I get a call from our congressman, which, yes, he gave me his cell phone number. It was like I was starstruck, I have to admit. Brian and I are, but
That's the only thing he's good at.
we're going to keep this apolitical. We are going to keep this apolitical. But the point is, yes, there is frequent communication.
Yeah, we're with them.
A lot of you may say that that politicians, local legislators want to get their photo ops, but beyond those photo ops and beyond those photographs and those moments, there is real policy conversation. And there is stuff that's going on in Pennsylvania that do I have any more time, Rabbi Anna?
You do.
What?
Do I have more
You have
time?
about 10 more
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah, you have.
Okay, 3 hours,
you
go.
said 6:50.
So let's talk for a minute about
Yeah.
politics, because there's nobody watching at home. We're all here, just quiet. But the truth is, Pennsylvania has passed something that is, I've been fighting for years. A number of gleaning organizations have been fighting for years. Why is it up to Rolling Harvest to take our donated money and support farmers when they're struggling and when they want to donate, but they just need to have their costs covered? And there's a lot of them. I'll give you guys an example. Solebury Orchards. We love Solebury Orchards. You can't believe how much they help us, how much they provide. But they need a little bit of help. I mean, those boxes alone that they give us cost $2 a piece, right? The labor that it's cost them. When there's an egg farm, Alder for Eggs, that since the pandemic hit, and all of our farmers, their supply chains have been disrupted. And things that can't get the boxes, they can't get the labor they need. I mean, everything is on its head. Why are we gonna let chickens lay eggs and then have those eggs get tossed out? No, we're gonna buy those at a cost that enables the farmer to keep the doors open. It's not gonna be the $5 a dozen organic that you might spend, or that I might spend. But believe it or not, for a couple dollars a dozen, we get to help the farmer out. And we spent $160,000 of donated money last year during the pandemic. We weren't expecting to. We had the opportunity to do it, and it was absolutely the right thing to do. I don't think people who were sitting at home donating money wanted us to just keep it in the bank. They saw a real crisis going on and just said, you're in a position to do something. And this is one of the ways that we would absolutely do that. Yeah.
Yeah, that leads me to, I've been thinking, you know, why is 20% of all these crops left in the fields, like just as a default, like as a understood part of the system? And at a minimum, we should at least help the farmers cover their costs.
So the thing I was getting to, that Pennsylvania is forward thinking now, they passed something called PASS, Pennsylvania Agricultural Surplus System. It was funded 5 years ago, but it wasn't enacted until 3 years ago for $1 million. So what trickles down to Bucks County from this is about $15,000 for Bucks County, about $18,000 for Montgomery County. But it's just what we've been talking about, where now it's our state paying farmers who want to be able to donate more. And this is really big news. It was just up to $2.5 million a couple of weeks ago. This is steps in the right direction. This is government being way less stupid. So there's a lot that can happen. Now, this Pennsylvania agricultural surplus system, our own Senator Bob Casey says to me, he wants to make this a federal program. And he's, you know, good luck, but it's a great idea.
It is.
It's a great idea. One other thing about politics, if I may. You remember I told you about silver linings from COVID?
Yes.
And that might sound like a really strange thing, but there's more silver linings. You never ever saw government work so quickly and so efficiently when the headlines were saying milk is being dumped, eggs are being squashed, whole fields of crops are being unharvested. You remember reading all about that, right? So all of a sudden, the world we've been inhabiting becomes headline news. And I couldn't be more grateful. Rolling Harvest Food Rescue was one of many, many organizations very quickly got to be part of the solution. And the federal government put $3 billion aside immediately to buy up all of this surplus crops that were being tossed. Well, hunger rose 20% in our area alone. Hunger grew 40% in Philadelphia and Trenton. And they took all these foods and they created farmer to families food boxes that we became one of the organizations in the area to distribute it around. This was beautiful food. It was fruits, vegetables, dairy, eggs, and protein, chicken, hot dogs, food that was just going to be tossed, and millions and millions and millions of boxes got distributed in record time. And to answer your question from before, yes, politicians did reach out to us, and then guess what? With COVID, we get an email. Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. See, I'm telling you stuff you didn't know, right? This is pretty cool. Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection creates a grant for emergency food recovery organizations. Guess not, there's not too many of us in Pennsylvania. We got $121,000 within 10 days from Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection to get a huge cooler. So all of this extra food coming in because of COVID and supply chain disruptions, all this money that we're able to purchase, we can now store it, aggregate it, game changer, and a new refrigerated vehicle to safely do it. In normal circumstances, this would have never happened. It would have been 6 months of filling out a grant from a professional grant writer that we don't possess and that we do not have anywhere near the infrastructure for. So that's another silver lining. It shows you what can happen when people just come together. And I know that sounds naive and Pollyanna, but I see it every single day. I see little miracles happen when we've got people out in the fields and we start with nothing, and then 2 hours later we've got 40 bushels of tomatoes that are on their way to food pantries.
Well, it shows that not only what happens when people come together, but also that government can be effective.
Right.
You know, our tax dollars can be used for things that help our neighbors.
It was
and help
remarkable.
our communities.
I have to be here bearing witness to it because you wouldn't believe me, would you? It was remarkable. Yes.
Don't you think that money is a minor problem compared to nutrition and healthy eating? I mean, the examples of big farm and tobacco and gambling shows no matter what you do, even multi-billion-dollar suits that you win, all of that continues unaffected. And in the supermarkets, it's big food that's providing all these non-nutritious things on the shelves. 90% is unhealthy, full of sugar and carbs and what's that called? And salt. All the things that are not healthy.
Right.
And you're trying to educate a group that need food, and most, they don't have any role models in all the people that are giving out the food because they don't eat healthy either.
I'm not saying that veggie triage is not for the faint of heart. I mean, I am saying it is not for the faint of heart. And we do it because it's absolutely the right thing to do.
Well, I'm not saying.
But you are right. When you're right, there's even more. There's even more of what we're up against. So maybe you haven't heard, but the Farm Bill is passed every 5 years. So the Farm Bill decides, the biggest program in the Farm Bill is food stamps. It's the SNAP program, but it's also school nutrition. It's subsidies to farmers. The Farm Bill is block grants for agricultural improvements. But here's where the problem is so entrenched, and it's from the 50s, and we should know better, and it should be changed. Just like this big food is finally getting exposed for the harm it's causing us. But the Farm Bill, $962 billion, 10 years funding. So there's a little tiny slice of the pie. The biggest slice is for food stamps in the Farm Bill. A big slice is for subsidizing commodity farming. The biggest slice in there that goes to farmers. You guys know what it is? It's cotton, it's soybean, it's corn. Soybean and corn that get put into all of these shelf-stable foods that have changed our entire food system. A lot of people think for the better. I differ. However, the little slice that gets less than 3% of the $962 billion Farm Bill is for what's called specialty crops. Anyone know what specialty crops are? Yeah, it's fruits and vegetables. It's what we eat. It's what when we go to a farmer's market, it's what every single family farm in Bucks County we work with grows specialty crops. So let's talk about that mindset as maybe something that's worth addressing and tackling. So what are we going to do about this? We're going to not let ourselves be overwhelmed when the problems seem too big to fix. If you're going to live life that way, you're just going to be paralyzed. Take it from me, if you don't mind my saying so. We're gonna do what we feel we can wrap our own brains around. We're gonna do what we feel we can wrap our own arms around.
You do what you can.
You're gonna do what you can. You know what you guys could do right in this room that's gonna make a huge difference? I'm sure you all do. I'm sure you support your local farmer. You can't imagine what a difference it makes. And if it means you have to pay a little bit more, you're keeping regenerative, sustainable agriculture going, even if you do it just for Shmita year as a way to take baby steps forward of regenerating the planet. Find a local organic farm, and there are so many around you. Find Yardley Farmers Market, find Doylestown Farmers Market. Support them. Make one less trip maybe for Whole Foods delivery, or one less trip to a supermarket. When you support local agriculture, you keep them in business. When you keep them in business, they're taking care of the earth. They're taking care of the soil, the water, the air. They're giving us a model for our kids for generations. And when farmers do well, they donate more to Rolling Harvest Food Rescue because they're in a position to donate. So there's many things that you could do, but I really encourage during this Shmita year, even if that's the only thing you do, that's a huge step forward.
That's a great idea.
And what about during the non-growing season? You know, where do we source our food?
Well, you're not likely to forage in the woods for mushrooms, right? Right. We, as I said, we are no longer an agrarian society. You're going to have to do what's convenient for you. But the other things you can do in a okay, I'm going to answer your question. Here's what you can do in a non-harvest month to make a difference for taking care of our local agriculture and for taking care of our planet and to keeping food out of landfill. Here's another statistic. 15% of all greenhouse gases in the world are from organic material ending up in landfill. So let's keep some of that food from getting thrown away. Even if you're in a supermarket and we have these outrageously unrealistic perceptions of what our food is supposed to look like, as if Mother Nature made that eggplant like with that gloss and not a single flaw. Come on, that's not the way she takes care of it. So you want to make a difference. When you're in the supermarket, honestly, right now, choose that cantaloupe that's got a little dip in it. Choose the apple with a little bit of a flaw. I'm so serious. It's going to keep this food out of landfill. And one person doing it is a good thing. You know, a congregation of people doing it who maybe didn't think of it before. If you love kale, but that one little thing has a little hole in it, I trust you, it's not going to taste any different because the carrot's got 3 legs when you chop it up in a salad or a soup. There's a lot of behavioral nudges we can make to honor the land, especially in this Shmita year, and to reduce our own food waste that we're not even aware of. And I knew that we were having a sea change. It was about 6 years into doing what I was doing. And all of a sudden, the front page of National Geographic magazine, I'll never forget it. My heart was beating. Food too good to waste. And it showed the wonkiest, ugliest vegetables in beautiful color. So these are things we can all do without really inconveniencing ourselves.
Melody Katz is on the line, and she, I think, discovered me and turned me on to Misfit.
Yes, Misfit Markets.
Which is great. Some of you know where they sell.
That's excellent. Yes, Hungry Harvest is another.
Oh,
Imperfect Foods is another. Hungry Harvest is in Philly area now. They're in Bucks County.
Okay.
Misfit Markets is in Bucks County. There's also, if you like getting food delivered, a lot of our farmers during COVID had to pivot to doing an online model to survive.
Okay.
Some of them, like Blue Moon Acres, that you may know, do that. There's Bodhi Box, BODHI, out of Ottsville. Mostly local, all organic, right to your door if you're too busy to do the things we're talking about. It's how you can support it.
Another one that we really like lately is Too Good To Go, the app.
Oh, in Philly. I love
Philly
it.
and New York and all over it.
So the point is, yes,
are,
Too Good To Go.
Yeah.
Restaurants will post food that they would normally throw out, but it's perfectly healthy, perfectly delicious. And anyone can go for $5.99 and pick up a mystery bag or a mystery box. My son turned me on to it. He's 31. My 33-year-old nephew loves it. He's a struggling artist, and believe me, when he shows me sometimes what he gets for $5.99, I think the message is clear. What we used to be doing in the shadows is really coming out front and center. I mean, I really do believe there is a shift in people's awareness and people's willingness to realize that we are wasting an abominable amount of food. We're sending it to landfill when it could be used to feed people. And that there's behavior nudges that we can all take a look and be ambassadors for, every single one of us.
Yeah, that was a premise for any of us, anybody here who's been to our past programs, that both food waste and plant-based food are two super great ways to reduce greenhouse
Meatless
gases.
Monday, for example.
Yes.
Right,
yes.
the 61 gallons of water it takes to produce 1
Yes,
pound of beef.
Exactly.
Versus 2 gallons of water to produce a turnip? I don't know.
Right,
Right,
exactly.
yeah.
Nancy.
How did you get involved with this? What is your background?
My background?
Well, I mean, how did you?
Well, if in the video, as I said, I was volunteering at a food pantry because it was the food pantry that my kid's school had a partnership with for, Christmas gifts. So, and I'm sure a lot of you have that experience, A lot of times it's our kids that will show us things in the community that the school's involved. And it was really that. I just decided, I would volunteer. I'd been overseas for 20 years with my family.
Lots to learn.
Well, I had seen a lot. I had been witness to a lot of different cultures, a lot of different languages.
Composting, did that ever come across?
It comes across when we speak at conferences, and usually the person on the same panel is from composting. Composting is, okay, there's the EPA has what we all in this sector consider it's our textbook. It is the hierarchy chart of food recovery. And the EPA will tell you this hierarchy chart for food recovery, the very first at the top of the chart to address food waste and hunger, but at the top of the chart, it's called source reduction. Let's try to make less waste with all the things we've been talking about. So for food recovery, the very top of the chart is source reduction. And then it comes to feed people. Then under that is feed animals, which is good. Not everything needs to go to compost. You have whole communities in Las Vegas that have turned food that was going to be wasted into really nutritious pig slop to make better tasting bacon. There's so many innovations. We have sectors now that turn food waste into biofuel, and there's a processing place right in Trenton, not that far away at all, where you can go, and major organizations can do that. The very bottom of that pile, the very bottom of the food recovery hierarchy chart is landfill, but right above that is compost. So that's one of the last resorts. Thank you.
This is actually from your sister. Hold on a second. She has a question. Do any of the farmers you work with who invite gleaning also do a Shmita year with their fields?
No, they do not. Thank you for that question, Lynn. But Shmita is very much a guideline for new agricultural practices that are going to regenerate, not just sustain, but actually regenerate. Shmita, when you rest the land and you let it breathe, it's just like us. We do too much. I just came from my own 7-day rest. I asked too much of myself. I was exhausted. So Shmita, permaculture, sustainable agriculture, they all say the same thing. The field has to lay fallow for a year, and you're going to rotate your crops. Otherwise, you're just going to deplete the soil. So we are there in a way.
We're thinking about it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
That
we're
was
welcome.
Fabulous. And just a couple quick things. I know it's already a little bit after 6:30. We did do a food collection. I think our vault is open in the back there. If people brought shelf-stable vegetables to donate for it, it'll go to the Interfaith Food Alliance. There's already a collection in the back of the blue car there, and if you brought stuff, please add yours to the collection, and that'll be going to the Interfaith Food Alliance. And as a follow-up event from this one, we have a slot to do some gleaning with Rolling Harvest at their farm in Titusville on October 9th. And so if anyone's interested in coming and helping to pick up vegetables and glean the fields in Titusville, that will be going to our neighbors that are hungry, please let me know. I'm the RSVP and we have up to 20 slots. So.
And tell people with kids, families with younger kids.
10 and up, only
10
10 and up, yeah. So if there are younger families in the congregation that maybe, or I asked Carrie to let people know as well. So thank you so much. This was amazing. Oh, Rabbi,
I just want to say a real thank you to Dara and Susan for really putting this together, and also to Randy and to Howard.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Support.
It wouldn't have come off without them. Thank you so much to everybody.
They have spent so much time here in September. It's crazy.
And it is
we
complicated.
joke about getting people caught.
It's a new business, right?
Well, we couldn't get the video to work, but.
That's all right. Well, you know what we'll do? We'll edit the film and we'll add the video in, so we put it up on our website. We're gonna add it onto our webpage so that people who didn't make it tonight can watch and learn about Rolling Harvest and hopefully get as excited about it as I am, because I'm gonna be out in that field gleaning in a couple weeks. And I hope that we get you some more volunteers, and thank you so much for all the great work that you do. It's really inspiring. Really inspiring.
Thank you all. Thank you so much for having me. This is really lovely. And I want to tell you, gleaning October 9th is a lot nicer than gleaning when it's 90.
Yes, I'm sure.
A lot nicer. Yeah. This is great. Yeah,
I just want to say hi. We have to
Yeah.
But I want to say hello.
I know.
Hello and happy belated birthday.
But what I'll do is I'll
I'll stick it in. I heard Kelly's great. Put it up on the website.
Yes, you know what?
She has a date.
She has a date. You know what? She's had a not so great time, so I'm glad she's finally happy. Her last relationship was a real bad one, so you know, it's all good.
The kids are happy and supportive. Yeah. Where is she getting married?
Trenton Country Club.
Yeah. Good. All right. I just want to say hello. It's always good
when
to
I'm
see you.
hungry.
Randy, thank you. Thank you.
I'm gonna end the Zoom. Bye, Melody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye. Whoever's still here.
Great.
Whoever's still here.